Hello, everybody. It is me, Leerod Kazuko, Leerod the Dragger, and I'm here in VR chat so I can talk about a few things. And it's a little rant video, just so I can get this stuff off my chest. And everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows things involving Nintendo as of recent. Just as a disclaimer, for the record, this is just my unbiased opinion, and I'm just seeing things telling you how I see it from my point of view. Let's just leave it at that. Nothing more. I'm not trying to say any damage. I'm just giving my opinion here. Thank you for understanding. Recent. Nintendo is doing all this lawsuits against Power World, and then before that, there were several other indie developers. Nintendo has done cease and desist. They've taken down Switch emulators. Yuzu was one earlier this year, and then a more recent one started with a Y or something. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but another one was recently taken down where they accepted a peace offering and just stopped all operations and took down the entire repository on GitHub. And before that, there was a little indie developer that was basically demaking Portal, the first Portal game, that was part of the orange box and also available standalone on Steam. Basically, taking that game and demaking it to where it would work on actual hardware for the Nintendo 64. Don't get me wrong, it was just only the first segment of the levels for Portal, and it was very well done. But then Nintendo wasn't having any of it, so they wanted to try to go after Valve, and Valve was like, okay, you need to stop making this. And so it was basically like a cease and desist order, and he just ended the project. Another note that I want to add is that it was Nintendo that approached Valve, and then Valve didn't want to have any of it involving their legal battles, and so Valve went to the guy that was developing that, and Valve was like, stop doing it. We don't want to have any issues. Just stop making it. It was perfect. It was just perfect. It took him a long time to make it, but it was very well made. But the thing is that he was using a Nintendo software development kit of a Nintendo released one, not an open source one. That was where he fell. But the fact that he was making... He's basically not an indie developer. He was just experimenting, and he wanted to share his experiments with the world. Nintendo, you need to realize your roots. You're the sole company that saved North America from the video game crash of the 1980s. Especially with what Atari did with having all this unlicensed software so there was no quality control or anything else like that. Atari was like, oh, here's some software development kits or SDKs for our hardware. Here's a bunch of blank cartridges. Have at it. Make a game for it. One of the games that actually caused the flop was the one biggest movie of the night of I forgot what year, was E.T., the Extraterrestrial. There was an Atari game made for that. And it was very rushed to the point where there were millions of unsold copies that are basically buried and protected by the federal government out in somewhere in, I think, Utah or something? Whatever. Nintendo brought... There was no video games or anything like that produced for quite a number of years after that, until Nintendo decided to be like, we're going to make a console for North America to bring video games back to them. And they succeeded very well. And then everybody loved Nintendo because you had Tetris, you also had Game Boy, you had Game Boy, and all the other successors after that. Nintendo needs to realize that what they're doing right now with all these lawsuits and them stretching their legal muscle is they're eventually going to cause a video game crash. They're going to right what they wronged in 1980. No, wait. I said that backwards. They're going to wrong what they righted in the 1980s by rescuing North America from the great video game crash. What they need to do is realize that is they're basically going to dig their own grave. If the president of Nintendo was still around, the original president, Satoru Iwata, if he was still around, he'd be like, have at it. Have fun as long as you give us royalties. What Nintendo needs to do, instead of suing these people, instead of suing them for money and damages for their intellectual property, they need to be like, okay, as long as you pay us some royalties, like a certain percentage of any profits or anything like that, we'll have it. It's all about corporate greed these days. This is what's hurting the economy. It's corporate greed. All these big, high CEOs. I mean, take for example, when there was going to be a threat of tons of layoffs at Nintendo Japan, Satoru Iwata took a cut from his salary to save people's jobs instead of laying off a bunch of people. Eventually, it's gonna. Ever since his passing, Nintendo, as a whole company, has changed. They've really changed. And I just hate to see a company go, and with what they've been doing lately, they're slowly losing a lot of their fan base, including me. I am somewhat still a fan of Nintendo because there's a lot of their games that I've loved. Don't get me wrong, the Metroid series I have loved to death. I loved all the Metroid Primes. I've loved Metroid Fusion. The only game that they've recently come out with, Metroid Dread, it's not my cup of tea because my play style has changed over the years. I'm 36 right now, and I remember Nintendo from the early days. What they need to realize is take example from these other video game companies, like Sega, for example. There have been so many fan remakes, fan-made creations. Because let's not forget about the meme Sonic, which is a parody of Sonic. Sega was like, oh, okay, you're having fun. We support our fans. Keep doing what you're doing. Nintendo don't do that. They don't do that. And that's what pisses me off. I just needed to get that out there. But, anyway. For those of you that are actually still watching this video to this point, I just wanted to get that off there. Anyway, this is Lirad signing off. Until next video, bye for now. I will give you a flame breath salute. And by the way, I have been doing a lot of avatar work for VR chat lately. Most of them are myself, and a few of them for my friends. So I work on my own time because I work a day job. So this is something that I do in my spare time when I'm not being bombarded with one of my friends that want to be like, oh, you want to play a game? You want to play a game? You want to play a game? When I got stuff I need to do. Grinds my gears. Aside from that, I bid you all farewell. Bye!